I never imagined that the story of my family would one day sound like a quiet storm I carried inside my chest. For most of my life, I thought I understood love, loss, and loyalty. I thought I knew what it meant to hold a family together, even when everything around us felt like it was falling apart. But life has a way of testing the truths we think we know. Sometimes it does this gently. Other times, it tears the ground open beneath us and waits to see how we learn to stand again. My story rests somewhere in the middle, soft in the beginning, sharp in the middle, and strangely healing toward the end. I should start by telling you that I am not the hero of this story. I am simply the man who lived through it, the man who tried to keep his family together, even when love became complicated and grief made everything fragile. My name is Mark Dawson, and for most of my life, I believe the greatest blessings I had were my father and my younger twin siblings, Emma and Jacob. We were nearly a decade apart in age, but somehow, they felt more like my own children than my brother and sister. Maybe that's because I helped raise them when our mother passed away, or maybe it's because I always carried a sense of responsibility for them, as if they were the last pieces of my mother's love left behind. When my father remarried, I told myself I wanted him to be happy. I told myself the house needed laughter again. I told myself the twins deserved a woman's warmth and softness after years of emptiness. But deep down, I also felt something heavy, something I couldn't quite name at the time. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't anger. It was more like fear, a fear of losing the little family I had spent years holding together. But life moves faster than our hearts sometimes, and before any of us could truly prepare ourselves, my father introduced us to the woman who would change everything. Her name was Linda Harris, but she asked us to call her Linda. She said stepmom sounded too formal, too cold, and she wanted us to feel comfortable with her. She was graceful, elegant, and soft-spoken. She carried herself like someone who had lived a comfortable life and wanted everyone around her to feel the same peace she carried in her smile. At least, that was my first impression of her. My father adored her. The twins were cautious at first, but they warmed up to Linda faster than I expected. She had a way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the room, at least when she wanted to. The years that followed felt calm on the surface. My father seemed happy again, and the house grew warmer. Holidays began to feel bright, and birthdays carried a sense of excitement we had not felt since losing our mother. But beneath all that warmth, there were small cracks forming, cracks that none of us noticed back then. Linda loved the twins. That much was clear. She hugged them, baked for them, helped them with homework, and cheered at their school events. But the love she gave them was not the same as the love she gave my father, and it certainly wasn't the same as the care she showed me. Looking back, I see it now. She treated us differently, in ways so subtle that you'd miss them unless you looked closely. When my father fell ill, those cracks widened. It happened slowly at first, just fatigue and small complaints that he brushed off. But within months, we learned he had a condition that offered no mercy and even less time. Watching a man you love fade is a pain that sits somewhere between helplessness and denial. We tried to stay strong for him, especially the twins. They were only 18 then, old enough to understand, but still young enough to believe in miracles. Linda stayed close to him during those months, always by his side, always softly comforting him. I thanked her for it. Truly I did. I believed she loved him. I believed she would protect the twins just as he would have wanted. But I didn't know the full story of the woman he married. Not yet. When my father passed, the house felt like a silent echo of everything we had lost, our mother years ago, and now our father. I remember the night after the funeral. The twins sat at the kitchen table, leaning on one another. I stood near the window, staring out at the dark yard that once held childhood memories. Linda sat across from us, hands folded, eyes red but strangely distant. It wasn't grief. It was something else, something colder. That was the first moment I felt uneasy around her. In the weeks that followed, the house began to change. Linda no longer cooked for the twins. She began spending more time alone in her room. She stopped asking how they were doing. It was as if her warmth had been tied directly to my father's presence. And once he was gone, that warmth vanished, leaving only a polite chill behind. Then the real shift happened. It was a Sunday morning, quiet, almost peaceful, when Linda asked the twins and me to join her in the living room. She sat upright on the couch, her posture too controlled, her expression too composed. I felt the change before she even spoke. Something in the air tightened. She said she wanted to discuss the future, and for a brief moment, I thought she meant healing or plans for moving forward as a family. But she cleared her throat, looked straight at Emma and Jacob, and said something that froze the room. You two will not be receiving any inheritance from your father. There was no tremble in her voice, no sadness, no sense of hesitation, just cold certainty. I saw the confusion wash over the twins' faces. Emma blinked, searching for meaning in those words. Jacob leaned forward, as if he had misheard. What do you mean? Emma asked softly. Linda adjusted her posture, as though preparing for a formal announcement. Your father changed his will before he passed. Everything was left to me. The house, the savings, the investments. I will manage everything. You will have what you need as long as you live here. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush the air in the room. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. I didn't believe her. No, I refused to believe her. My father adored the twins. He would never leave them with nothing. Jacob shook his head. Dad wouldn't do that. He told us. He told you many things, Linda interrupted, her tone sharp for the first time. But the will is what it is. I felt something inside me snap. Not anger, not rage, just a deep, aching disbelief. Linda, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, I need to see that will. Her eyes flickered, just briefly. It was the first sign that something wasn't right. You can speak to the lawyer, she said. But I don't want any arguments in this house. Arguments? She had just stripped the twins of everything their father intended for them, and she didn't want arguments? That night, the house was filled with silence thicker than grief. Emma cried quietly in her room. Jacob paced the hallway, muttering his father's words, trying to make sense of the betrayal they felt. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on my chest. I didn't know what was true anymore, but I knew one thing for sure. My father wouldn't have done this. Something didn't add up. The next day, I contacted my father's lawyer, Mr. Whitfield. He was an older man with gentle eyes and a calm voice, someone who had known our family for years. When I told him what Linda had said, he paused for a long moment on the phone before speaking. Mark, he said quietly, you and the twins need to come to my office. There is something important you should know. His tone struck me hard. It wasn't just serious. It was heavy. It carried the weight of something hidden, something he had been waiting for the right moment to reveal. I told the twins we had an appointment. They didn't ask many questions. They were exhausted from the emotional blow Linda had thrown at them. When we arrived at Mr. Whitfield's office, he greeted us kindly and led us into a private meeting room. He closed the door gently, walked to his desk, and opened a large file drawer. What he pulled out changed everything. He placed 2 envelopes on the table, one cream-colored, the other pale blue. He looked at us with a deep sadness before explaining. Your father wrote multiple letters during his final months, he said. One for you, Mark, and one for the twins. Emma's breath caught. Jacob leaned forward, gripping the arms of his chair. Mr. Whitfield continued. I was instructed to hold the will until all of you were present, and to wait until the right moment. He paused, taking a slow breath. Linda is correct that your father updated his will, but she did not tell you the whole truth. My heart started pounding, slowly, loudly, like each beat was pushing against a wall inside my chest. Mr. Whitfield handed me the cream-colored envelope. My name was written in my father's familiar handwriting, steady, firm, unchanged even by illness. He handed the blue envelope to Emma and Jacob. They held it together, their fingers trembling. Then the lawyer pulled out a thick folder. This, he said, is your father's actual will. The final one, not the version Linda believes she controls. My breath stopped for a moment. The lawyer opened the folder slowly, like a man revealing something sacred. He slid the document toward us. And in the first paragraph, written in simple, clear language, was the truth that shattered everything Linda had tried to convince us of. The twins were the primary heirs. Not her. Everything. The house. The savings. The investments. The life insurance. The family land. The business shares. Was left to Emma and Jacob. Linda was given something, yes, but nothing close to what she had implied. The twins stared at the document as if it were a miracle. I felt tears rise behind my eyes, not from relief alone, but from the painful realization that my father had known something we didn't. He had known there might be conflict. He had prepared for it. He had trusted Mr. Whitfield to protect his children. But the lawyer wasn't finished. There is more, he said softly. Your father wrote a private note about the behavior he observed in his final months. I believe you should read it carefully. He handed me another folded paper. I opened it slowly, and as my father's words filled the room, the truth we had never seen began to reveal itself. I unfolded my father's note slowly, almost afraid of what I might find. The paper was slightly yellowed at the edges, as if it had been folded carefully and kept safe for years. His handwriting, familiar and steady, brought back memories I hadn't realized I was holding on to. The evenings he read to us, the quiet encouragement in his voice, the small laughter in the kitchen when Jacob spilled milk. Seeing his words again, I felt his presence like a whisper in the room. The first lines of the note were simple, yet they carried a weight I couldn't shake. Mark, Emma, Jacob, if you are reading this, it means I am gone. I need you to know the truth about my choices and why I made them. Life is full of people who will try to take what is not theirs. Be careful, be kind, but be strong. Even as I read, my throat tightened. My father had always spoken carefully, but there was something different here, urgency hidden beneath his calm words. He continued, Linda is a clever woman. She has charm, and she can convince people that she is more than she is. I trust her with many things, but not with my children. She is not to decide your inheritance. She is to act as a caretaker, nothing more. Do not let her tell you otherwise. I looked up from the note and saw Emma and Jacob staring at me, eyes wide, pale faces reflecting the mixture of disbelief and relief I felt. Jacob's jaw was tight. He was trying to stop the tremble in his hands. Emma's fingers clutched the envelope, and I realized just how much tension she had carried all this time. My father had anticipated Linda's attempt to take control. He had anticipated her cold calculations. He had anticipated the lie she would tell, and he had acted to protect his children, even from her, even from us. I have left the house, my savings, and everything I could gather in your name. Mark, you will guide them, not control them. You know what is right. Trust in your love for them, not in the promises of others. I swallowed hard. The note ended simply. Love always, Dad. The room was silent for what felt like minutes, though in reality, it was only a few breaths. My mind raced with questions, confusion, and a strange sense of vindication. The fear and uncertainty that had weighed on us these past months, the fear Linda had planted, was dissolving, leaving a bittersweet mix of relief and sorrow. I glanced at Mr. Whitfield, who nodded gently. He didn't need to say anything. The message was clear. Linda had lied. The twins had been protected. And my father, even in death, had found a way to shield them. Jacob's voice broke the silence. So we get everything? Really? His tone was cautious, almost like he was testing whether reality would live up to the promise on the paper. Yes, I said, my voice still heavy with emotion. Everything. Dad made sure of it. Emma's lips trembled, and tears spilled down her cheeks. She looked at the blue envelope again, as if the words inside were too precious to hold all at once. I can't believe he did this for us, she whispered. I reached across the table, placing a hand over hers. He loved you both more than anyone else could. That's why he did this. For a moment, we sat in silence, letting the truth sink in. The twins were safe. They would not lose their inheritance. They would not be robbed of what was rightfully theirs. And yet, the shadow of betrayal still lingered in the room. It was subtle, like a cold breeze slipping through a cracked window, but it was there. Mr. Whitfield cleared his throat softly. There's more you need to understand, he said. Your father anticipated that Linda might try to challenge the will. He included specific instructions in case she did. Everything she said about controlling the inheritance is legally baseless. You are fully protected. Emma and Jacob exchanged a glance, relief and confusion mingling in their eyes. So she can't do anything? Emma asked. No, Mr. Whitfield said firmly. Not unless she tries to lie to the courts, which will only work against her. Your father's intentions are clear and legally binding. I exhaled slowly, a deep weight lifting from my chest. But the relief came with a new responsibility. My father had trusted me to guide the twins, to help them navigate this difficult and delicate situation. And that trust, it terrified me. I had never felt more pressure in my life. The lawyer continued. I'll help you through the process if it comes to that, but I believe honesty will prevail. Linda may try to intimidate you, but remember, she cannot change what your father decided. Jacob's hands were still shaking. He glanced at me. Mark, I don't know if I can face her. After what she said, I nodded. I know. It's hard. But you don't have to face her alone. We'll do this together. Emma wiped her eyes. I thought he would never leave us out. I can't believe she said that. I know, I said quietly. And that's why we have to stay calm. Don't let her words hurt you. She doesn't have the power your father gave her. We spent the next hour going through the legal documents with Mr. Whitfield. Every clause, every paragraph, every line confirmed what we had hoped. The twins were the heirs, just as our father had intended. And Linda's attempts to manipulate or control us had no legal standing. When we left the office, the sun was dipping below the horizon. The sky was painted with shades of orange and pink, soft and calm. It felt like the world itself was breathing a sigh of relief with us. I drove home with the twins quietly in the back seat. Neither spoke much. I didn't either. Words felt unnecessary. The truth we carried was heavy, but it was also a gift. When we arrived at the house, Linda was sitting on the porch, waiting. She looked calm, her expression carefully neutral. I could feel her eyes on me as we stepped inside. For the first time, I understood the tension she had created, not just fear, but a calculated test of our patience and resolve. Emma and Jacob stayed close to me. I could feel their uncertainty. They didn't know how to act, whether to confront her or to avoid conflict entirely. I gave them a gentle nod. We would face this together. Linda greeted us with a soft smile. I hope you had a productive visit with Mr. Whitfield, she said. I stayed calm, meeting her gaze evenly. We did. We understand the situation now. Her smile didn't falter, but there was a subtle shift in her eyes, something like realization. Good, she said, though I could detect the faint edge of tension beneath her words. I didn't respond further. Words would come later, when it was necessary. For now, I guided the twins up to their rooms. They were safe. Their inheritance was secure. And for the first time in months, I felt a quiet sense of victory. Not over Linda, not over circumstances, but for honoring my father's final wishes and protecting the people who mattered most. As night fell, I stood by the window, looking out at the quiet yard. I could still see the memory of my father's laughter echoing in my mind, a soft, warm presence that reminded me of what truly mattered. Life would be complicated from here on. Linda would test us, challenge us, and perhaps try to create conflict. But my father had left us more than money. He had left us a bond, a trust, and the courage to face whatever came next. I whispered quietly, almost to myself, "We'll be okay, Dad. We'll make sure of it." The next morning, the house felt heavier than usual, not because of grief or fear, but because of anticipation. Linda was moving about as if everything were normal, but the twins and I knew it wasn't. Her calm demeanor was a mask, and the tension beneath it was almost tangible. Emma sat quietly at the kitchen table, tracing the rim of her coffee mug with a finger. Jacob leaned against the counter, arms folded, staring at nothing in particular. I could feel their anxiety, and I hated that I couldn't shield them completely. I decided we needed a plan, not an aggressive one, but a way to protect ourselves without giving Linda any reason to escalate. "Listen," I said softly, gathering the twins near the table. "We need to stay calm and follow what Dad set up. The lawyer has everything documented. Linda may try, but she can't win. We just have to stick together." Jacob exhaled sharply. "I don't know if I can. Every time I see her, I feel, I don't know, like she's waiting to trick us again." "You're not wrong," I admitted. "But fear is exactly what she's counting on. If we stay calm, we take that power away from her." Emma finally looked up, eyes red but steady. I can't believe she would even think she could take Dad's things from us. He loved us. He made this clear." "I know," I said. "And that's why we have to remember what's real. Not her words. Not her threats. What Dad wanted is what matters. He trusted us to make sure she doesn't get in the way." We spent the rest of the day going through the documents from Mr. Whitfield. Every line confirmed what we had been told. The twins were the rightful heirs. Linda had no legal claim beyond what Dad explicitly left her. We even found letters Dad had written, anticipating potential disputes and naming Mr. Whitfield to protect us. The foresight was astonishing. It was as if he had known how cold and calculating someone could be and had taken every possible step to shield his children. Still, the emotional weight of Linda's betrayal lingered. That night, I found myself pacing the living room, staring at the family photos lining the walls. Pictures of Dad, the twins, and me, smiling at birthdays, vacations, and holidays. The memories were comforting, but they were also bittersweet. Everything we had lost, the father, the mother we had lost long before, and the innocence we had once taken for granted, was suddenly mixed with a sense of vigilance we had never experienced before. The twins eventually joined me in the living room. They didn't speak much at first. We sat in silence, listening to the faint hum of the city outside, letting the gravity of the situation settle in. Finally, Emma spoke. "Mark, what if she tries something? What if she goes to court or tries to force us out?" I sighed, knowing this day might come. "We'll handle it like Dad planned. The lawyer will support us. We have all the documents. She can't lie about what he wrote. And if she does, the courts will see it." Jacob shook his head. "It still feels unfair. Why would she even try this? Why would she care so much about what isn't hers?" I looked at him, my voice soft. "Because some people see life as a game. They think if they can take control, they'll have power. But it's not about them, Jacob. It's about staying true to Dad's intentions and protecting what matters." Emma leaned against me. I'm scared. What if she hates us after this?" "She might," I said quietly. "But her feelings don't change reality. What matters is that we honor Dad and take care of each other. Nothing else counts." For the next few days, we moved carefully through the house, cautious in our interactions with Linda. She seemed to notice our distance and adjusted her behavior, keeping her charm outward while the tension underneath grew. She never directly challenged us, but there were small moments, glances, casual remarks, and subtle insinuations that reminded us she was aware of her diminished control. One evening, I overheard her in a phone conversation, speaking in low tones I couldn't fully catch. But I recognized the words lawyer, inheritance, and control. My stomach turned. She was planning something. I could feel it. I shared my concerns with the twins, who nodded silently. We knew we couldn't let her manipulate or intimidate us. The emotional strain was significant, but we leaned on each other. Every conversation, every plan, and every moment of togetherness reminded us that our bond was stronger than any attempt at deception. Days turned into weeks. Linda's actions grew more obvious, though still subtle enough to avoid immediate confrontation. She would rearrange small items, make pointed comments about money, and try to subtly question our understanding of Dad's intentions. It was exhausting, but each time, we reminded ourselves of the truth, the will, the letters, and our father's careful planning. Then came the day Mr. Whitfield advised us to formally notify Linda of the will and her legal rights, clarifying that she had no claim over the twins' inheritance. It was a simple legal process, but it carried a powerful weight. When she received the notice, her calm exterior faltered slightly. I saw the tension in her eyes, the fleeting doubt that maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't win the control she sought. That night, we gathered again in the living room, exhausted but relieved. The confrontation had been indirect, quiet, and legal, but it carried the weight of finality. The twins felt a strange mixture of victory and sadness. Victory, because their father's wishes were honored. Sadness, because the reality of betrayal had touched their lives so deeply. Emma whispered, "I feel strange." Happy and sad at the same time. I nodded. "It's normal. This is complicated. But remember, we've survived the worst of it. Linda's schemes, her words, her intentions, they don't define you. What matters is that we stay true to Dad and to each other." Jacob leaned back, exhaling deeply. I finally feel safe. For the first time in months." "That's because I said softly. "We have everything Dad left us. And more importantly, we have each other." The house felt different after that night. The tension didn't disappear completely. Linda remained in our lives, after all, but her attempts to dominate and manipulate lost their power. She could act politely, she could smile, she could charm visitors, but she couldn't undo what Dad had ensured. The twins had their inheritance. They had their future, and we had each other. It took weeks, then months, to settle fully into the reality that Dad had left us. Each time we thought about what might have happened, each time we remembered Linda's words before we knew the truth, we realized how carefully our father had protected us. And each time, we felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for the inheritance, but for the love and foresight behind it. Looking back now, I understand something essential. Betrayal, fear, and deception are painful, but they are powerless against foresight, love, and preparation. My father knew this. He trusted us to see through lies, to stand together, and to protect what truly mattered. And that lesson, that quiet, powerful, heartfelt lesson, is what I carry every day. As I watched Emma and Jacob grow into the young adults my father had always hoped they would become, I felt a sense of peace. Not because the struggle was over, Linda was still part of our lives, but because the truth had prevailed. The love of a parent, the bonds of family, and the courage to face deception with calm determination had given us the strength to survive. And in those quiet, reflective moments, I whispered a promise to my father, one I intend to keep for the rest of my life. We will honor you, Dad. We will protect each other. And we will never forget the lesson you left behind. The weeks following the revelation of the will brought a strange combination of relief and tension. Relief, because the twins were safe and their inheritance secure. Tension, because Linda was still in the house, still moving through our lives with that quiet, calculated grace. Her presence was unavoidable, and her smiles, though polite, carried a subtle reminder that she had tried to manipulate and deceive us. The twins were hesitant around her, unsure of how to act or what words might trigger her. I understood their caution. I had felt it too. One afternoon, I found myself sitting in the living room with Emma, going through some old photo albums. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that allowed memories to settle around us like a soft blanket. Emma picked up a photo of our father holding her and Jacob on his shoulders at the beach. Her eyes filled with tears, and I could see the way her lips trembled as she whispered, "I miss him so much." "I know," I said softly. "I miss him too, more than I can put into words." She hugged the photo tightly. I can't believe how much he thought of us, even after he was gone. He knew we might face people like her." She glanced at Linda, who was quietly walking past the window, tending to the garden outside. "He prepared everything for us." I feel lucky, but also so angry that she tried to lie to us. "I understand," I said. "It's natural to feel angry. But remember, anger won't change anything. What matters is what we do next. We honor Dad by staying calm, protecting each other, and keeping our integrity." Emma nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. "I just don't know if I can face her sometimes. She makes me feel small." "You're not small," I said firmly. "Don't let her words or her presence make you doubt yourself. You are exactly who Dad loved and protected. That's what counts." Jacob joined us in the living room, looking exhausted from pacing the house. "I overheard her talking to someone on the phone again," he said quietly. "She's still planning something. I can feel it." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I know. She's persistent. But persistence doesn't equal power. We have the law on our side, Dad's intentions on our side, and each other. That's what matters." Over the next few days, we took steps to make the house feel safe again. We made sure the twins' rooms were organized, we checked the important documents and letters, and we created a small schedule of routines. The idea was simple. Structure brings stability, and stability counteracts fear. Each day, we moved a little further from the shadow Linda had tried to cast over our lives. Yet, it wasn't easy. One evening, as I was making dinner, I heard Linda speak sharply to Emma about a minor household mistake. Her words were polite on the surface, but the tone carried judgment, subtle and cutting. Emma flinched, and I felt a pang in my chest. I knew this battle wasn't about legality alone. It was about emotional manipulation, about control and intimidation. I approached her gently. "Emma, don't take it personally. Remember, this is about her trying to create tension, not about you." Emma nodded, but I could see the lingering hurt. Jacob came over to help, and together, we finished dinner quietly. Our silence wasn't uncomfortable, it was protective. We were learning to navigate the minefield of her subtle hostility. Days passed, and the twins grew more confident. Emma started speaking up when Linda made pointed remarks. Jacob began asserting himself in small ways, and I noticed a shift in the household dynamic. The fear was not gone, but it was losing its grip. One evening, as we sat together after dinner, I realized how important it was to maintain open communication. "We need to be honest with each other," I said softly. "If she says something hurtful, tell me. If you're scared, tell me. We can face anything together. The truth always wins when we stick together." Emma nodded, looking more determined than I had seen in weeks. "I want to be strong, Mark. For us. For Dad." Jacob added, "Yeah, me too. I don't want her to make us doubt ourselves anymore." That night, I stayed up later than usual, reflecting on everything that had happened. The weight of responsibility pressed down on me, but there was also a strange sense of peace. My father had trusted me to guide the twins, and I realized that his faith in me wasn't just about the inheritance. It was about keeping the family united, preserving love in the face of manipulation, and teaching resilience. In the weeks that followed, Linda made more subtle attempts to assert herself, but each time, the twins and I responded with calm firmness. We did not argue. We did not retaliate. We simply reminded ourselves of the truth and acted accordingly. The emotional strain was real, but our bond grew stronger. Each day, Emma and Jacob learned to trust not only their father's words and intentions, but also their own instincts and judgment. One afternoon, I overheard Linda speaking to a friend on the phone. Her words were laced with frustration. I don't know how they found out. They're so stubborn. They're united against me. I paused and listened quietly. The satisfaction was subtle, but it was there. She was losing her hold. Her manipulation, her threats, and her lies were failing. When I told the twins about it, they laughed softly. It wasn't a joyful laugh. It was relief, a quiet acknowledgement that the struggle was slowly tilting in our favor. We're stronger than we thought, Emma said, smiling faintly. Jacob nodded. We really are. Together. It was in these moments that I realized something profound. Life would always have people like Linda. People who tried to take control, to manipulate, to intimidate. But love, preparation, and unity were far stronger. The bonds between family, especially when nurtured with care and trust, could withstand almost anything. Over time, the house regained a sense of peace. We could laugh again, albeit cautiously at first. Emma and Jacob started planning for their futures, talking about college, careers, and dreams. I helped them navigate paperwork, applications, and life choices, all while ensuring Linda could not interfere. Through it all, I learned something critical about human nature. Betrayal and deceit are painful, but they are temporary when confronted with truth, courage, and careful guidance. My father had understood this. He had prepared for deception, and he had trusted us to act with integrity. That trust was sacred, and I realized that my role in this family was not just as a protector of inheritance. It was as a guardian of values, love, and resilience. And so, as part 3 continues, the twins and I moved forward with quiet determination. Each day was a small victory, a reminder that even in the face of manipulation, fear, and betrayal, truth and love could prevail. The following weeks marked a subtle turning point. Linda's attempts to assert dominance became increasingly transparent, and the twins began noticing the patterns I had been pointing out for some time. It was empowering for them, in a quiet way, to recognize manipulation for what it was. Emma started to speak up more confidently during family conversations, and Jacob stopped reacting with hesitation whenever Linda made pointed comments. Each small act of assertion strengthened their confidence, and I could feel a sense of relief wash over me. We were no longer entirely at the mercy of her words. One evening, I sat with Emma and Jacob in the living room, reviewing some old letters Dad had left for them. They were filled with guidance, life advice, and personal reflections, reminders of the man who had loved them unconditionally. As we read, I noticed the twins were beginning to internalize the wisdom, connecting the dots between the lessons and their current reality. Emma spoke softly. It's amazing how much he thought about everything, even when he was sick. He prepared for us, for situations like this. Yes, I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite my own emotions. He wanted to make sure you could handle the challenges life throws at you. He trusted you, and now it's our responsibility to live up to that trust. Jacob nodded, his gaze serious. I never realized how much Dad knew. It's like he saw the future. I smiled gently. Maybe he did, or maybe he just understood people better than most. Either way, he left you strong, prepared, and protected. That's what matters. Our conversation was interrupted by the sound of Linda's voice from the kitchen. She was speaking to a friend on the phone, her tone clipped and tense. I caught snippets of words: control, lawyer, inheritance, and children. I shared what I had overheard with the twins, and we agreed to remain calm and measured. We knew reacting impulsively would give her power, and Dad had prepared us to act differently, to act wisely. Over the next few days, Linda tried to assert herself subtly, testing boundaries, but each attempt fell flat. Emma and Jacob began to handle the interactions with grace, using calm responses instead of emotional reactions. I watched quietly, proud of how they were growing into resilience under pressure. One afternoon, as we were preparing dinner together, I noticed Linda lingering near the doorway. She said nothing, but her presence was calculated, as if she were assessing our behavior. Emma stopped chopping vegetables and turned to her. "Is there something you'd like to say?" she asked, her voice steady. Linda hesitated, then smiled, a polite but hollow gesture. "No, just checking if you needed anything." I could sense the tension in the room, but I also sensed a shift. Linda realized we were no longer easily intimidated. Her influence was waning. The twins' quiet confidence was a shield she could not pierce. That night, we reflected on the day's events. Jacob leaned back in his chair, exhaling deeply. "I can't believe how much stronger we feel already," he said. Emma nodded. "It's like we finally understand what Dad meant when he said we had to be strong, even in the face of people like her." "Yes," I agreed. "Strength doesn't mean being aggressive. It means knowing the truth, standing together, and acting with calm purpose. That's what will keep you safe and keep your father's wishes intact." Over the next month, life began to regain a sense of normalcy. We celebrated small victories, like finishing projects at school or completing personal goals. Each success was a reminder that the twins' futures were secure and that Linda's manipulations could not diminish their accomplishments. One evening, as we gathered in the living room after dinner, I noticed a subtle change in Linda's demeanor. She was quieter, her movements more deliberate, less intrusive. It was as if she realized her tactics were no longer effective. I shared this observation with the twins, and we agreed that the best course of action was to continue our calm, measured approach. Emma smiled faintly. "I think we're finally starting to take control of our own lives, without fear of her." Jacob added, "Yeah, it's like we're not reacting anymore. We're acting on our terms." That was the moment I realized the true lesson of all of this. Life would present challenges, people would try to deceive or control us, but the power of preparation, love, and unity could overcome almost anything. Dad had left us not just an inheritance of money, but an inheritance of wisdom, resilience, and strength. Weeks turned into months. We continued to navigate interactions with Linda carefully, always mindful of her tendencies, but no longer fearful. The twins thrived academically and socially, building confidence and independence. I guided them through decisions, reminding them that integrity and calm determination would always serve them better than fear or anger. One day, as we sat in the garden, I reflected on the journey we had traveled together. The betrayal, the fear, and the tension had been intense, but the lessons learned were invaluable. The twins had grown into strong, self-assured young adults. They understood the importance of standing up for themselves, of trusting in the truth, and of leaning on each other in times of challenge. I spoke quietly, almost to myself. "Dad, I hope we've honored your wishes. I hope we've shown the twins the strength you wanted them to have. And I hope we've learned the lesson you wanted us to understand." Emma and Jacob joined me, sensing the reflective mood. We sat together in silence, the weight of the past months settling around us like a soft, protective blanket. The house, once a place of tension and fear, now felt like a sanctuary. Not because the challenges had disappeared, but because we had learned to face them together, with truth, courage, and love. Linda remained in the house, of course, but her power over us had diminished. Her influence could no longer disrupt the bond we shared or undermine the inheritance that was rightfully the twins. She was a presence, but not a threat. And that, I realized, was the true victory, not in legal documents or letters, but in the emotional resilience and unity we had cultivated as a family. As Part 3 closes, I understood that life is filled with trials, people who may deceive or manipulate, and moments of fear that seem insurmountable. But love, preparation, and unity provide a shield stronger than any threat. My father's foresight had protected us, but it was our own courage, integrity, and willingness to stand together that allowed us to honor his legacy and safeguard our family. And in the quiet of that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the garden was bathed in soft, golden light, I whispered to myself, to the twins, and to the memory of our father, "We are stronger than fear. We are united, and we will honor your trust, Dad, every single day. The days that followed brought a calm that was almost foreign after the turbulence of the past months. The twins were adjusting to the certainty of their inheritance and the knowledge that their father had protected them from Linda's manipulations. Yet, even with legal security, the emotional aftermath lingered. Trust, once shaken, is not rebuilt overnight. Emma and Jacob were learning, slowly but steadily, that strength didn't mean ignoring fear. It meant facing it and acting with clarity. One afternoon, I found them sitting at the dining table, reviewing some old photographs Dad had left behind. There was a photo of all of us at the lake. Emma and Jacob perched on my father's shoulders, their smiles wide and unguarded. The image was filled with warmth, innocence, and the kind of happiness that seems permanent until life tests it. Emma traced the outline of her father's face with her finger, her voice soft. "It's strange, isn't it? How everything seemed simple back then. But now, it feels like we've been through so much more than kids should have to face." "I know," I said quietly. "And that's exactly why Dad prepared so carefully. He knew life could be complicated, but he wanted you to have a foundation you could always trust. Even when things seem uncertain, even when people try to deceive you, you can rely on that foundation." Jacob leaned back, folding his arms. "It's weird, isn't it? How one person's lies can make you doubt everything you know. But now, I think we finally see through it. We finally understand what's real." "That's the lesson," I said softly. "Truth doesn't change, even when people try to twist it. Your father knew that. And now, it's our turn to honor that truth by living it every day." Linda, of course, was still in the house. She moved about her routines with calculated grace, always polite, but always observant. We noticed her glances, the subtle adjustments she made in the way she spoke, as if testing the limits of our patience. But each day, her attempts at manipulation grew weaker. The twins and I responded with calm consistency, never allowing fear or anger to dictate our actions. One evening, Linda approached me privately, her voice soft but firm. "Mark," she said, "I think we need to discuss how things will be handled from now on." I nodded slowly. "I agree. We should discuss boundaries, expectations, and respect. That's what will keep the household functioning peacefully." She hesitated, as if weighing her words carefully. "I want to ensure the twins are comfortable. They deserve stability." "Yes," I said gently. "They do. And stability comes from honesty, consistency, and respect. We can all achieve that if we act with integrity." Linda paused, then smiled, a little more genuinely than usual. "I hope we can manage that." Her words were measured, cautious, but I sensed a subtle shift, an acknowledgement, perhaps unconscious, that her manipulations could no longer succeed. Over the next few weeks, life began to settle into a cautious rhythm. The twins focused on school, social activities, and their personal goals. We maintained routines, checking in regularly with each other and reflecting on Dad's guidance. Each small success, each confident decision made by Emma and Jacob strengthened their sense of self and diminished Linda's influence. One evening, we gathered in the living room after dinner. I could see the twins' faces illuminated by the soft glow of the lamp, eyes reflecting a combination of determination and quiet relief. Emma spoke first. "I think we're finally starting to feel like ourselves again, like we're in control of our lives." Jacob nodded. "Yeah, it's strange, but it feels good. I don't feel scared anymore." "Not really." "That's because you're learning to trust yourselves," I said. "Not just Dad's guidance, but your own instincts. That's the greatest lesson of all. People may try to deceive you, manipulate you, or intimidate you, but the truth you carry within and the bond you share will always guide you." Linda, observing from a distance, remained polite but increasingly withdrawn. Her subtle power over the household had diminished. She could move about, speak carefully, and maintain appearances, but her attempts to influence or control us no longer had an effect. During these months, the twins grew more confident in their interactions with her. Emma learned to respond calmly to pointed remarks, and Jacob began asserting himself in small but meaningful ways. Their growth was remarkable to witness, a testament to the resilience and foresight their father had instilled in them. One afternoon, Emma approached me quietly. "Mark, I think I finally understand something important. Dad didn't just protect us financially. He protected us emotionally too. He wanted us to learn how to stand strong, even when life feels unfair. I smiled, touched by her insight. Exactly. It's not just about money or inheritance. It's about integrity, courage, and love. Those are the things that will carry you through any challenge. Jacob joined us, leaning on the doorway. It's weird how much stronger I feel now. Even when she says things that used to scare me, I can stay calm. I can respond without fear. That's growth, I said softly. And it's exactly what Dad wanted. He trusted you both to become strong, self-reliant people who could face life with clarity and courage. As time passed, the household found a new rhythm. Linda's presence remained, but her influence had waned. The twins were thriving academically and socially, building confidence and independence. I continued to guide them, helping them navigate decisions and challenges while reinforcing the importance of integrity and calm determination. The following weeks were transformative. The twins were no longer the hesitant, uncertain children who had once trembled at Linda's subtle manipulations. They had grown into young adults with quiet confidence, capable of seeing through deception and trusting their own judgment. Emma had a newfound poise, responding to Linda's remarks without flinching, while Jacob's assertiveness had blossomed in small but meaningful ways. Together, they demonstrated the power of resilience, patience, and unity. One evening, as I sat with them in the garden watching the sunset, Emma spoke softly. "I think I finally understand something, Mark. Life isn't about avoiding fear or deception. It's about facing it, together, and knowing that truth and love will always guide you." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "That's exactly right. Your father wanted you to learn that lesson. It's more valuable than any inheritance. Money can be taken or threatened, but integrity, love, and courage are permanent." Jacob leaned back, letting the evening breeze brush against his face. "I feel free in a way. Free from fear, free from doubt. Even when she says things that used to scare me, I don't feel powerless anymore. That freedom comes from knowing the truth," I said, "and from standing together. Your father trusted us to protect each other, and in doing so, we've built a shield no one can break." Linda, for her part, began to shift her approach. Her presence remained polite and composed, but the subtle threats and manipulations she once wielded had lost their effect. I noticed her withdrawing slightly, as if realizing that her attempts to control or intimidate were futile. The twins sensed this too, and their confidence grew with each passing day. One afternoon, I overheard her speaking on the phone. Her voice was clipped, tinged with frustration. "They're too united. I can't find a way to influence them. It's like they can see through everything." I shared this with the twins later, and we laughed quietly together. Not a joyful, careless laugh, but one of relief and quiet triumph. The battle was no longer about inheritance or legality. It was about emotional strength and unity, and in that arena, we had already won. As the months went on, the household settled into a new rhythm. The twins focused on their studies and personal goals, while I continued to guide them through decisions, always emphasizing the importance of patience, honesty, and calm assertiveness. We celebrated small victories together, grades, completed projects, moments of courage, and each success reinforced the lessons their father had tried to teach. One evening, as we gathered in the living room, Emma turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "I think the hardest part wasn't knowing about the inheritance. It was learning how to trust ourselves, how to face fear without letting it control us. That's the essence of growth," I said. "Your father prepared you for life, not just for financial security. He wanted you to learn that courage and clarity come from within, and that unity and love give you strength." Jacob added, "I've never felt more confident. I know we'll face challenges in the future, but I also know we can handle them together." The truth of their words warmed me. It wasn't just that Dad had protected their inheritance. It was that he had given them something far more enduring, the ability to stand firm, to trust themselves, and to act with integrity. Linda, increasingly aware that her influence was diminished, became quieter and more reserved. She remained part of our lives, but the power she once wielded had been broken. The household, once tense and cautious, now had a sense of calm resilience. We could laugh, discuss our dreams, and live without the constant shadow of fear she had tried to cast. One night, as I watched the twins sleep in their rooms, I reflected on the journey we had undertaken together. The challenges, the fear, and the tension had tested us all, but they had also revealed the depth of our strength and the power of unity. We had faced betrayal, we had stood firm, and we had emerged stronger, not just as siblings and a guardian, but as a family bound by love, trust, and resilience. I whispered quietly, almost to myself, "Dad, I hope we've honored your wishes. I hope we've shown the twins how to stand strong, how to trust themselves, and how to protect what matters most." Emma and Jacob eventually joined me, sensing the reflective moment. We sat together, quietly absorbing the evening, the warm glow of the house wrapping around us like a soft embrace. The trials we had faced were still part of our story, but they no longer defined us. What defined us was our bond, our courage, and the lessons we had learned from a father who had thought of everything, even after he was gone. As part 4 draws to a close, I realized the true power of love, preparation, and unity. Life would always present challenges. People would try to deceive, manipulate, and intimidate, but with integrity, patience, and steadfast courage, those forces could be met and overcome. My father had left us a legacy far greater than money. He had left us the tools to live fully, to face fear without flinching, and to protect each other no matter the circumstance. In the quiet of that night, as the house settled and the world outside slowed, I whispered a promise to my father, to the twins, and to the life we would continue building together. We will honor your trust. We will remain united. We will face life with courage and love, always. The first weeks of spring brought a subtle change in the house. The light was brighter, the air warmer, and even the garden seemed to respond to the quiet sense of peace that had begun to settle over us. The twins had grown remarkably during the past months, not just in confidence, but in maturity, in the way they carried themselves and spoke about life. Emma had a calm determination now, and Jacob's assertiveness was steady, no longer forced or hesitant. I could feel the invisible weight of fear and uncertainty lifting from their shoulders, replaced by a quiet resilience that made me proud beyond words. Despite this growth, life wasn't entirely free of challenges. Linda remained a presence in the house, moving gracefully between rooms, polite and composed, yet always observing. Her eyes, though softer than before, still carried a certain calculation. I understood this well. People like her rarely gave up entirely. They retreated, regrouped, and waited for an opening. We had to remain vigilant, not out of fear, but out of prudence. One morning, as the twins and I gathered for breakfast, Emma spoke first, a quiet edge in her voice. "Do you ever think about what Dad would say if he could see us now?" I paused, taking a sip of coffee, letting the warmth settle in. "I think he would be proud. He trusted us to stand together, to protect each other, and to handle challenges with integrity. That's exactly what we're doing." Jacob nodded, though his eyes carried a hint of concern. I worry that even with all we've learned, she might try something new, something we haven't seen yet." "That's always possible," I admitted. "But remember what Dad taught us. Preparation, awareness, and unity are our strongest tools. And you've both grown so much, you're stronger than you realize." We spent the morning reviewing old letters and legal documents Dad had left behind. The letters weren't just formal. They were full of advice, reflections, and even small stories from his own life. Reading them now, months later, I realized how much foresight he had shown. He had not only protected the twins financially, but had prepared them emotionally to face manipulation, fear, and disappointment. Each letter was a lesson in resilience, courage, and love. By midday, the twins had grown absorbed in their own projects. Emma was working on a school assignment, her focus sharp and deliberate. Jacob was sketching plans for a small garden project, his hands moving confidently as ideas came to life on paper. I watched them for a moment, reflecting on the transformation they had undergone. The twins who once flinched at every word from Linda now thrived in independence, creativity, and calm confidence. Later that afternoon, Linda approached me privately. Her expression was composed, though I could detect a faint tension behind her eyes. "Mark," she said carefully, "I'd like to discuss the household arrangements. I want to ensure everything remains smooth and comfortable for everyone." I nodded slowly, keeping my tone neutral. "Of course, we can review routines, responsibilities, and expectations, but everything should prioritize fairness, respect, and the twins' well-being." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "I understand," she said softly. "I just want to avoid conflict." "Then we simply act with honesty and clarity," I replied. "No one can control what isn't theirs, and that includes intentions, emotions, or possessions. We respect boundaries, and we honor truth." She nodded, leaving with a subtle sense of resignation in her movements. I realized then that her attempts to dominate or manipulate were slowly diminishing, not through confrontation, but through quiet consistency, calm authority, and unwavering unity from the twins and me. The following week brought an unexpected moment of reflection. I took the twins to the lake where we had once spent long summers with Dad. The water shimmered in the late afternoon sun, and the gentle rustle of leaves created a serene backdrop. Emma and Jacob walked along the shore, kicking small stones into the water, their laughter lighter than it had been in months. "I think this is the first time I feel really free," Emma said softly, glancing at the horizon. "Free from fear, free from uncertainty." Jacob nodded, picking up a smooth pebble. "Yeah, it's like we can breathe again. I never thought I'd feel like this after everything." I smiled, feeling a wave of pride. "This is what your father wanted for you. Not just security, but freedom. The freedom to trust yourselves, to act with courage, and to live without fear. That's more valuable than any inheritance." As we walked back toward the car, Emma asked a question I had anticipated but had been waiting for carefully. "Do you think she'll ever truly give up?" I hesitated, considering my words. Some people never give up, but persistence isn't always power. Her persistence can't undo the lessons you've learned, the bonds we share, or the truth that Dad left for us. We remain calm, steady, and united, and that's what gives us strength. The drive home was quiet, contemplative. I noticed how much the twins had grown, emotionally, mentally, and socially. They were no longer children reacting out of fear. They were young adults, capable of reasoning, assessing situations, and acting with confidence. And yet, the journey wasn't over. Challenges would continue. People would continue to test boundaries, but we now possessed the tools to meet them with resilience. Once home, I found the twins engaged in a household task, organizing old boxes and documents, deciding which items were valuable, sentimental, or unnecessary. The exercise was practical, but it also served as a subtle lesson in decision-making and responsibility. Each choice they made, each discussion we had, reinforced their independence and their ability to act with integrity. Linda watched from a distance, silent, occasionally interjecting with a suggestion or comment. Her attempts to steer the process were mild, but her presence was more subdued than it had been months earlier. I could sense that her perception of control had shifted. Our quiet unity and confidence had diminished her influence. That evening, after dinner, we gathered in the living room. The twins were reflective, a little tired, but calm. Emma spoke first. "I think we've learned something important. It's not just about defending ourselves. It's about knowing who we are, what we value, and standing together no matter what." Jacob nodded. "Exactly. And we can do that without anger, without fear. Just clarity and honesty." I felt a deep sense of pride. That's the lesson your father wanted you to learn. Strength isn't aggression. Strength is calm, courage, and integrity. Those are the tools you carry for life. The rest of the evening was quiet, filled with subtle laughter and the warmth of family togetherness. I realized that months of fear, tension, and uncertainty had forged a bond stronger than we could have imagined. The twins had emerged more resilient, capable, and self-assured. Linda's presence, though still part of our lives, no longer had the emotional leverage she had once wielded. In the following days, we continued this routine: school, projects, discussions, and quiet reflection. Each day reinforced lessons in patience, unity, and emotional strength. The twins' confidence grew steadily, and even small victories, Emma speaking up in a classroom debate, Jacob completing a challenging project, became milestones in their emotional and personal growth. Looking back on this period, I realized that the inheritance was never just about money. It was about life lessons, guidance, and the preparation to face people like Linda. Our father had given us far more than possessions. He had given us insight, resilience, and the tools to navigate the complexities of human behavior. And in that, we found a deeper sense of security than any legal document could provide. The weeks continued to flow with a steady rhythm. The house felt lighter now, no longer weighed down by the constant tension and uncertainty that had once defined it. Emma and Jacob were growing more independent with each passing day. They were no longer the anxious, cautious children who had once recoiled at Linda's words or actions. Instead, they were developing a quiet confidence, the kind that came from knowing who they were, what they stood for, and that they were united in purpose and love. One evening, as the sun dipped low in the sky, we sat together in the garden, watching the shadows lengthen. The air was filled with the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant calls of birds settling in for the night. It was the kind of peaceful moment that reminded me of what we had worked so hard to achieve: emotional safety, trust, and unity. Emma spoke first, her voice reflective. "It's strange, isn't it? How much fear and uncertainty can change your world. But it's even stranger how, when you face it together, you come out stronger." Jacob nodded, tossing a small pebble into the pond. "I used to feel like we were constantly under attack, like we had no control. But now, it feels like we can actually breathe, like we own our own lives again." I smiled, feeling the weight of relief settle in my chest. "That's exactly what your father wanted for you. Not just protection from financial loss, but freedom from fear, confidence in your choices, and the ability to stand strong no matter what comes your way." Linda, of course, remained a part of our lives. She moved through the house with measured politeness, her presence less domineering than before. She spoke carefully, smiled when necessary, but no longer wielded the quiet power that had once caused the twins and me to tread lightly around her. The subtle shifts in the household dynamics were clear. Our unity, calm determination, and consistent truth had dismantled her influence. One afternoon, I overheard her speaking on the phone. Her voice carried a low, frustrated tone. "They're too united. They won't be swayed. Everything I try fails. I can't," she trailed off. I didn't need to hear more. The message was clear. She recognized, consciously or unconsciously, that her attempts at control had failed. I shared this with the twins later that day, and we laughed quietly together. Not out of mockery, but from relief. The struggle wasn't over. People like Linda never fully vanish, but we had gained something far more important: confidence, emotional resilience, and unity. The twins now understood that challenges, manipulation, and betrayal could be met with clarity, honesty, and calm courage. In the days that followed, we focused on growth and routine. Emma immersed herself in school projects and creative pursuits, while Jacob worked on practical skills and personal goals. Each accomplishment, however small, became a testament to their growing strength. I guided them through choices, always emphasizing patience, integrity, and self-belief. One evening, as we gathered in the living room after dinner, Emma shared her reflections. "I've realized something important. Life will always throw challenges at us. People will try to deceive or manipulate, but it's how we respond that defines us." Jacob added quietly, "And we can respond with courage, honesty, and calm. That's more powerful than fear or anger." I nodded, a sense of quiet pride filling me. Exactly. Strength isn't about overpowering others. It's about understanding yourself, trusting in what's right, and standing together. That's what your father wanted you to learn, and it's what will guide you for the rest of your lives. As the twins grew into this understanding, I noticed subtle changes in Linda's behavior. She was less assertive, more hesitant. She spoke with care, choosing her words carefully, and seemed to retreat into a polite but subdued presence. Her influence had waned not because of confrontation, but because of the steady consistency of truth, calm, and unity that we maintained. One day, Emma approached me privately, her expression thoughtful. "Mark, I think I finally understand what Dad meant when he said we had to be strong. It wasn't about fighting others. It was about trusting ourselves, protecting each other, and staying true to what's right." "Yes," I said, my voice soft. "Strength is measured in clarity, patience, and courage, not in anger or aggression. You've learned that lesson well, and I couldn't be prouder." Jacob joined us shortly after, smiling faintly. "I feel like we've finally come full circle. We're not just surviving anymore. We're thriving. We can handle whatever comes next." That evening, as the sun set and the house settled into quiet, I felt a profound sense of peace. The journey we had taken, from fear and manipulation to calm confidence and unity, had not been easy. but it had forged the twins into resilient, self-assured young adults capable of navigating life with integrity and courage. Looking back, I realized that Dad's inheritance was never just about money or possessions. It was about life lessons, guidance, and emotional preparation. The documents, letters, and foresight he left behind had provided security, but the real inheritance was the wisdom to face life's challenges, the resilience to withstand deceit, and the unity to protect each other through it all. Linda's presence remained, but it no longer carried the power to intimidate or disrupt. She was part of our lives, yes, but she had become a background character in a story that belonged to us. The story of a family that had weathered betrayal, fear, and tension, and had emerged stronger, wiser, and closer than ever. As the night deepened and the household settled into a gentle quiet, I whispered to myself, to the twins, and to the memory of our father. We are strong. We are united. We trust ourselves, each other, and the truth. We will honor your legacy every day, Dad. And in that quiet moment, I knew we had achieved something far greater than any material inheritance. We had achieved emotional freedom, the kind that comes from courage, clarity, and unwavering family bonds. Spring was slowly giving way to early summer, and with it came a sense of renewal in the house. The air felt lighter, warmer, filled with the faint scent of blooming flowers and freshly cut grass. The twins had settled into a rhythm that was both comforting and empowering. Emma's calm determination had blossomed into a quiet leadership, while Jacob's confidence had grown to the point where he no longer hesitated to make decisions on his own. Their transformation was remarkable, a testament to resilience, unity, and the lessons their father had instilled in them long before his passing. Yet, life has a way of testing even the strongest foundations. One evening, as we sat in the living room after dinner, the sound of a car pulling into the driveway caught my attention. I glanced toward the window and saw a familiar figure, someone from Dad's old circle of friends, a lawyer he had trusted deeply. My stomach tightened slightly. I had not expected visitors, and I wasn't sure if the twins were ready for this kind of interruption. "Mark," Emma whispered, sensing my concern. "Who is it?" "It's someone who knew Dad well," I said softly. "We'll see what they want. Let's remain calm." The lawyer entered the house with a warm smile, but there was an undertone of urgency in his voice. "Mark, I hope I'm not intruding. I've come with some important information regarding your father's estate. There are details that need your attention, details that could impact the twins' future if not addressed carefully." I gestured for him to sit, while the twins hovered nearby, curious but cautious. "Of course. Please, tell us what we need to know." He pulled out a folder filled with documents, letters, and notes. "Your father anticipated many potential complications, including attempts by outsiders to influence the inheritance. These documents outline contingencies, legal safeguards, and instructions that were not fully disclosed in the initial will." The twins leaned in, eyes wide. "So Dad prepared even more than we thought?" Jacob asked. "Yes," the lawyer confirmed. "He thought ahead about people like Linda, about potential disputes, and about how to ensure the twins were protected emotionally and financially. These documents are meant to guide you through any challenges that might arise." I felt a wave of gratitude mixed with a lingering unease. Dad had truly thought of everything, yet the responsibility now fell on me. It was one thing to protect the twins from fear and manipulation. It was another to navigate legal intricacies that could potentially complicate their lives. Over the next few days, I carefully reviewed the documents with the lawyer, explaining the key points to Emma and Jacob in simple terms they could understand. We discussed contingencies, the importance of transparency, and the steps we needed to take to ensure their protection. The process was educational for the twins, reinforcing their understanding of responsibility, critical thinking, and foresight. During this time, Linda observed quietly, her presence polite but watchful. She asked questions occasionally, phrased in a neutral manner, yet there was a tension in the air. It was clear she sensed there was more to the estate than she had originally anticipated. Her previous confidence had diminished, replaced by cautious calculation. The subtle power she had once wielded was now restrained by the twins' unity and the legal safeguards Dad had put in place. One evening, Emma turned to me after a long discussion with the lawyer. "Mark, it's overwhelming. All these documents, rules, and contingencies. How do we make sure we handle everything correctly?" I took her hand gently. We take it one step at a time. Your father left these instructions to protect you, not to frighten you. Understanding them, following them carefully, and acting together, that's all it takes. And remember, you're not alone. We face this as a family. Jacob added, it's kind of comforting, actually. Dad really thought about everything. Even situations we didn't know could happen. Yes, I said. That's why we can remain calm. Preparation is our shield. Unity is our strength. And truth will guide every decision we make. Over the next several weeks, we implemented the instructions in Dad's documents. Some involved financial planning, others related to communication and boundaries with Linda, and some were personal guidance for the twins on making decisions independently. Each step was deliberate, measured, and educational. The twins learned to evaluate situations, weigh consequences, and act with clarity. Linda's behavior during this period became increasingly reserved. She observed, asked questions sparingly, and no longer attempted the subtle manipulations that had previously unsettled us. It was clear that Dad's foresight, combined with our calm, consistent approach, had shifted the balance. One afternoon, while reviewing some letters from Dad, Emma looked up with a thoughtful expression. I think the hardest part wasn't just dealing with her. It was learning how to trust ourselves, how to know that we could handle challenges without fear. I nodded, my voice soft but firm. Exactly. Your father wanted you to develop that inner strength. The rest, documents, legal safeguards, even potential threats, are all secondary to the lessons of courage, integrity, and unity. Jacob added quietly. And now we know we can face anything together. That's powerful. The lawyer returned for a final consultation, confirming that all instructions had been followed correctly. He commended the twins for their attentiveness and their ability to grasp complex ideas. Your father would be proud, he said. He prepared you not just financially, but emotionally and mentally. That's the greatest legacy anyone could leave. As the day ended and the lawyer departed, I sat quietly with the twins. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows across the room. Do you see now? I asked. Your father didn't just protect your inheritance. He protected your lives, your growth, and your ability to face life's challenges. That's more important than anything else. Emma and Jacob nodded, absorbing the weight and meaning of my words. The sense of peace that settled over the household was profound. We had navigated fear, manipulation, and uncertainty, emerging stronger and more united than ever. And yet, I knew that life would continue to test us. Challenges would come, people like Linda would attempt to assert themselves, and unexpected situations would arise. But we were ready. The twins had grown into resilient, confident, and compassionate young adults. We had learned to trust ourselves, each other, and the lessons of the man who had prepared us so thoroughly. As Part 6 continues, the true depth of Dad's legacy becomes clear. It was not the documents, letters, or financial planning alone, but the emotional, moral, and psychological foresight he imparted, a guidance that would carry the twins through life far beyond any legal safeguard. The following days brought a sense of calm diligence to the household. The twins were immersed in the routines we had established, schoolwork, personal projects, and discussions about the responsibilities and decisions outlined in Dad's documents. Each day was a lesson in patience, foresight, and unity. They approached tasks deliberately, weighing consequences, considering options, and acting with thoughtfulness I had rarely seen in children so young. Linda, meanwhile, maintained her polite distance. She was still present, of course, but her subtle attempts at control had all but disappeared. Her movements were cautious, measured, as if she were testing the waters without the confidence to dive in. I noticed that she watched the twins closely, perhaps realizing that they were no longer susceptible to fear or manipulation. One evening, after a long day of organizing documents and planning schedules, Emma approached me quietly. Mark, I've been thinking. Dad's instructions weren't just about rules or protection. They were about teaching us how to live, how to handle challenges, how to trust ourselves. I nodded, my voice soft but steady. Exactly, Emma. The inheritance, the letters, the contingencies, they're all secondary. The real lesson is how to approach life with integrity, clarity, and courage. That's the true gift your father left you. Jacob, who had been sitting nearby, added quietly, it feels like we've grown so much. Not just because we survived, but because we learned. We learned to face fear, make decisions, and stay united. That's more valuable than anything else. The twins' reflections reminded me how far we had come. Not long ago, fear and uncertainty had dominated our household. Every glance from Linda, every ambiguous remark, had the potential to unsettle us. Now, that fear had been replaced with confidence, resilience, and understanding. They were no longer reacting impulsively. They were responding thoughtfully, equipped with the tools their father had carefully provided. Over the next several weeks, we continued to implement Dad's instructions in everyday life. The twins learned to make choices independently, to evaluate situations critically, and to consider the long-term consequences of their actions. Each decision, however small, reinforced their confidence and understanding of responsibility. Even interactions with Linda became lessons in patience and calm assertiveness. One afternoon, as I observed the twins working together on a household project, I felt a surge of pride. They were not just following instructions, they were thinking creatively, collaborating, and problem-solving. The fear that once constrained them had transformed into capability, and their bond with each other had strengthened immeasurably. That evening, Linda approached me quietly. Her voice was polite, subdued, almost hesitant. "Mark, I see how the twins have grown. They're different now." "Yes," I replied calmly. "They've learned to trust themselves, to act with clarity, and to stand together. That's exactly what your father wanted." Her lips pressed into a thin line, and she nodded. "I understand." There was no hint of the manipulation or control that had once defined her presence. It was a subtle acknowledgement that her influence had waned, replaced by the twins' unity and the safeguards Dad had established. As the weeks progressed, the household settled into a comfortable rhythm. The twins thrived academically, socially, and personally. They had learned to navigate challenges with calm determination and confidence. Linda's presence was no longer a source of tension, but rather a reminder of how far we had come. One evening, after dinner, I gathered the twins in the living room for a quiet reflection. "Do you realize what you've accomplished?" I asked softly. "You've faced fear, uncertainty, and manipulation. You've learned to trust yourselves and each other. And you've grown into resilient, capable young adults. That's more important than any inheritance or document." Emma smiled, her eyes reflecting both pride and relief. "It's strange to think about how much has changed. We're stronger now, and I feel like we can face whatever comes next." Jacob added, "Yeah, we're not just surviving anymore. We're living, and we know how to handle challenges without fear." I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The journey had been long and, at times, emotionally taxing, but the outcome was far beyond anything I could have imagined. The twins had emerged not just protected, but empowered, capable of navigating life with wisdom, courage, and compassion. Linda remained in the house, but her role had shifted. She was no longer a source of fear or manipulation. She was part of the background, a presence that no longer held power over us. Her attempts at influence had been neutralized not through conflict, but through calm consistency, unity, and adherence to truth. One evening, as the sun set and the shadows lengthened, I reflected on the true depth of Dad's legacy. He had left us more than documents, letters, or financial security. He had left us lessons in resilience, patience, unity, and courage. He had equipped us to face life's uncertainties with confidence, to protect each other emotionally, and to make decisions guided by integrity. I turned to the twins, my voice quiet but firm. "Remember this. Life will always present challenges. People may try to deceive, manipulate, or intimidate. But with truth, courage, and unity, you can face anything. That's the inheritance that truly matters." Emma and Jacob nodded, absorbing the weight of the words. The peace and confidence in their expressions were undeniable. They had internalized the lessons, grown stronger, and developed the emotional resilience that would carry them through life. As night fell and the household settled into quiet, I whispered a promise, to my father, to the twins, and to the life we would continue building together. "We will honor your trust, Dad. We will remain united. We will face life with courage, clarity, and love. And we will protect each other, always." In that moment, I realized that the true victory was not in legal safeguards, documents, or letters. It was in the emotional strength we had cultivated, the unity of our family, and the lessons learned from a father who had thought of everything, even beyond his own lifetime. The journey was far from over, but we were ready. Stronger, wiser, and united, we faced the future with calm determination and unwavering faith in ourselves and each other. That, I knew, was the most valuable inheritance of all. Summer had fully arrived, bringing long days filled with warmth and the soft hum of life outside. The twins were flourishing in ways I had only dreamed of months ago. Emma moved through her days with quiet confidence, her decisions measured and thoughtful, while Jacob's energy and creativity were now tempered by discernment and clarity. Watching them grow into strong, self-assured young adults was a gift I cherished daily. Yet, even amidst the calm, the past lingered in subtle ways. Linda's presence was still felt, and though her attempts at manipulation had waned, I remained mindful that vigilance was necessary. People who had once tried to control or deceive rarely gave up entirely. They adapted, recalculated, and waited for the right moment. Our family had learned that truth and unity were stronger than fear, but we could never be complacent. One afternoon, as we were organizing some of Dad's old papers in the study, Emma paused and looked up. "Mark, sometimes I still feel the weight of everything that happened. The fear, the uncertainty, it's like it left a shadow." I nodded, understanding completely. Yes, it's normal. Experiences like that leave marks. But shadows don't define us. They teach us. They remind us of how far we've come and the strength we carry within. Jacob, who had been sorting through a stack of old photographs, added thoughtfully, "I think that's why we're stronger now. We've faced fear and uncertainty and learned how to respond without losing ourselves. That's something Dad wanted for us. Not just protection, but the ability to stand firm no matter what happens." "Yes," I said softly. "And that's why these moments, these reflections, are important. They help us remember the lessons, internalize them, and carry them forward." The house itself had taken on a new atmosphere. Once tense and heavy, it now felt warm, calm, and steady. The twins moved through it with assurance, engaging in their studies, creative pursuits, and daily routines with a sense of purpose. Linda, for her part, remained present but subdued. Her once confident gestures were now measured, her tone polite and controlled. It was clear she recognized, consciously or unconsciously, that the emotional power she had once wielded had shifted irreversibly. One evening, after a long day of projects and schoolwork, we gathered in the garden. The air was fragrant with summer blooms, and the sound of insects and birds created a serene backdrop. Emma spoke first, her voice soft but firm. "It's strange. I used to think strength was about standing up to people or fighting back. But now I see it's something deeper. It's about calm, clarity, and unity. It's about trusting yourself and the people you love." Jacob nodded in agreement. "Yeah, it's not about winning arguments or proving people wrong. It's about knowing what's right, acting with integrity, and supporting each other." I smiled, feeling a deep sense of pride. That's the lesson your father wanted you to learn. Strength isn't aggression. It's the courage to stand by your values, the wisdom to act thoughtfully, and the unity that binds you together. Those are the tools that will carry you through life. Over the next few weeks, we continued to implement Dad's instructions in practical ways. The twins learned to navigate more complex decisions, financial choices, personal boundaries, and social dynamics. Each success reinforced their confidence, each challenge a reminder of how far they had come. The legal safeguards Dad had left ensured that their inheritance was secure, but the emotional and moral guidance he provided proved even more invaluable. Linda's attempts to assert influence became almost non-existent. She observed quietly, occasionally offering suggestions or asking questions, but her words lacked the subtle force they once carried. The twins' unity, consistency, and understanding of their father's guidance had created an unbreakable barrier against manipulation. One afternoon, Emma approached me with a thoughtful expression. "Mark, I think the most important thing we've learned isn't just about protecting what's ours. It's about knowing who we are, what we value, and how to act with integrity no matter what happens." Jacob nodded. "And that's a lesson we'll carry with us forever. Not just for now, but for the rest of our lives." "Yes," I said softly. "Your father's legacy isn't just the inheritance. It's the wisdom, courage, and unity he left behind. That's what will guide you in every decision, every challenge, and every success. As Part 7 continues, the family begins to face new, subtle challenges that test their resilience in unexpected ways. The lessons they've learned will continue to serve as a foundation, but life has a way of presenting trials that require reflection, calm, and unwavering courage. The following days brought subtle changes. The house was calm, but life, as always, had a way of introducing new challenges. The twins continued to grow, yet the lessons of vigilance and foresight remained ever relevant. One afternoon, while reviewing some correspondence Dad had left behind, I noticed a letter marked with his handwriting, clear and deliberate. "It's from Dad?" Emma asked, her voice tinged with curiosity and emotion. "Yes," I replied. "He left this for situations like now. Read it carefully, and remember that these are lessons as much as instructions." We sat together, the warm afternoon light casting long shadows across the room, and read the letter. Dad's words were calm, reflective, and deeply insightful. He wrote about life's unexpected turns, the importance of patience, and the power of staying true to oneself. He reminded us that challenges would arise even after he was gone, but that unity, honesty, and courage would always guide us through. Jacob looked up after reading. He really thought of everything. Not just money, not just rules, but how to face life itself. "Yes," I said softly, "and that's why we can face these moments calmly. We have the tools, the guidance, and the unity to handle whatever comes next." Linda, meanwhile, remained in the background, her presence subdued. She spoke occasionally, but her tone lacked the subtle manipulation that had once unsettled the household. It was clear that she recognized, consciously or unconsciously, that her influence had diminished. The twins' growth, combined with Dad's foresight and our calm consistency, had created an unshakable foundation. As the days passed, small challenges appeared, not dramatic confrontations, but subtle tests of patience, decision-making, and emotional strength. A misplaced document, a minor disagreement about household responsibilities, or an unexpected request from Linda served as reminders that life was never entirely predictable. Each time, the twins responded with calm clarity and thoughtful action, demonstrating the resilience and maturity they had developed over the past months. One evening, as we sat in the living room reflecting on the day, Emma spoke. "I think the hardest lesson wasn't learning to face her or understand the legal instructions. It was learning to trust ourselves, to know that we could handle anything with calm and honesty." Jacob nodded. "Exactly. And now, even when things feel uncertain or uncomfortable, we can respond with clarity. We don't panic, we don't overreact. We act with thoughtfulness and courage." I felt a surge of pride. That's the essence of your father's guidance. Life will always present challenges, people will test your boundaries, and unexpected situations will arise. But if you remain true to yourselves, act with integrity, and stay united, you will navigate every obstacle successfully. Over the next weeks, we practiced these principles daily. The twins learned to make decisions independently, to anticipate possible complications, and to communicate openly with each other and with me. Their confidence continued to grow, not just in handling challenges, but in trusting their instincts and their understanding of the lessons Dad had left behind. Linda, increasingly aware of her diminishing influence, became quieter and more reflective. She no longer attempted subtle manipulation, instead observing the household with a polite, measured presence. Her behavior was a reminder of the power of consistency, unity, and calm authority. True strength, we had learned, was not in aggression or intimidation, but in integrity, patience, and emotional resilience. One afternoon, Emma turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Mark, I feel like we've truly learned how to live. Not just how to survive or protect ourselves, but how to approach life with clarity, courage, and honesty. That's a gift beyond words." Jacob added quietly, "And it's a gift we'll carry with us forever. Not just for now, but for everything that comes next." "Yes," I said, my voice calm but full of emotion. "Your father's legacy isn't only in the inheritance or the documents. It's in the wisdom, guidance, and strength he instilled in you. That's what will guide your choices, your actions, and your life." As Part 7 draws to a close, the family had reached a point of true stability. The twins were no longer children navigating fear and uncertainty. They were young adults equipped to face life with courage, discernment, and emotional maturity. Linda's presence, while still part of the household, no longer carried the power to disrupt or intimidate. That evening, as the sun set and the household settled into a gentle quiet, I reflected on the journey we had taken. From fear and manipulation to confidence, clarity, and unity, the twins had grown in ways that surpassed my expectations. Dad's foresight, combined with our consistent guidance and their resilience, had created an unbreakable foundation. I whispered quietly, almost to myself, "We are ready. We are strong. We are united. And no challenge, no manipulation, no uncertainty can shake the lessons, the courage, and the love that binds us together." In that quiet moment, I knew that the true inheritance was not the documents, not the legal safeguards, nor the material wealth. The real inheritance was the wisdom, the emotional resilience, and the unity of our family, the lessons that would carry us through life, long after any challenge had passed. And as I watched Emma and Jacob smile at one another, confident, calm, and capable, I realized that we had fulfilled Dad's greatest wish, not just to protect the twins, but to prepare them for life in a way that no one could ever take away. The first days of early autumn brought a gentle shift in the atmosphere around the house. The air carried the crispness of approaching fall, and the soft amber light of the setting sun seemed to settle over everything, casting a warm glow on the garden and the house. The twins were thriving in ways that were almost remarkable. Emma's calm determination had matured into thoughtful leadership, and Jacob's energy, once impulsive and restless, had developed into a quiet confidence paired with careful planning. Watching them navigate their daily lives with clarity and purpose filled me with a sense of pride and quiet awe. Even as our home settled into a peaceful rhythm, I remained aware that life always presents new challenges. Linda, though noticeably subdued compared to previous months, remained a presence in our lives. Her polite demeanor now masked any traces of manipulation, but I knew from experience that people rarely abandon attempts at control entirely. It was a reminder that vigilance and consistency were always necessary. One afternoon, as we were organizing Dad's old books and letters in the study, Emma paused and looked up at me. "Mark, sometimes I still feel the weight of the past. The fear, the tension, it's like a shadow that follows us." I nodded, understanding her completely. Yes, those experiences leave marks. But shadows don't define us. They remind us of how far we've come. They teach us resilience and strength. That weight you feel now is proof of growth, not limitation. Jacob, who had been flipping through old family photos, added thoughtfully, "I think that's why we're stronger now. We faced fear, uncertainty, and manipulation, and we came out capable. That's what Dad wanted, not just protection, but the ability to face life with courage." "Yes," I said softly. "That's exactly the lesson, and it's one that will serve you far beyond these walls, long after these moments are behind us." The household itself had transformed. Once tense and cautious, it now felt warm, calm, and welcoming. The twins moved through it with assurance, engaging in their studies, personal projects, and household responsibilities with quiet purpose. Linda's presence, while still part of our daily lives, no longer carried the subtle force it once did. Her gestures were careful, her words measured, and her attempts at influence minimal. The shift was subtle, yet undeniable. The balance of power had irrevocably changed. One evening, as we gathered in the garden, the late sunlight reflected in the twins' eyes. Emma spoke first, her voice calm and reflective. "It's strange. I used to think strength was about confrontation, about standing up to people or proving ourselves. But now I realize it's something deeper. It's about clarity, integrity, and unity. It's about trusting yourself and the people you love." Jacob nodded, tossing a small stone into the pond. "Yeah, it's not about winning or being right. It's about knowing what's right, acting with honesty, and supporting each other through everything." I smiled, feeling a deep sense of pride. "Exactly. That's the lesson your father wanted you to understand. True strength is not aggression. It's the courage to stand by your values, the wisdom to act thoughtfully, and the unity that binds you together. Those tools will guide you through every challenge you'll face in life." Over the following weeks, we focused on reinforcing these lessons. The twins handled increasingly complex decisions, financial choices, personal boundaries, and social interactions. Each successful decision built confidence. Each challenge reinforced their understanding of responsibility and integrity. The legal safeguards Dad had left ensured that their inheritance was secure, but the emotional and moral guidance he provided proved even more invaluable. Linda's attempts at influence gradually faded entirely. She observed quietly, occasionally offering a suggestion, but her words lacked the subtle force that had once unsettled the twins. Our consistent approach, coupled with the emotional strength and unity of the twins, had created an unshakable foundation. One afternoon, Emma approached me, her eyes thoughtful. "Mark, I think the most important thing we've learned isn't just about protecting what's ours. It's about knowing who we are, what we value, and how to act with integrity no matter what happens." Jacob added softly. "And that's a lesson we'll carry with us forever. Not just for now, but for everything that comes next." "Yes," I said, my voice calm but emotional. "Your father's legacy isn't only in the inheritance. It's in the wisdom, courage, and unity he instilled in you. That's what will guide your choices, your actions, and your life." As Part 8 continues, subtle new challenges begin to arise. Opportunities for growth and reflection, tests of patience and emotional strength. The lessons the twins have learned will continue to serve as their foundation, guiding them through situations that require courage, clarity, and unwavering unity. The days that followed were filled with reflection and quiet growth. Life, even in its calmest moments, has a way of presenting subtle tests, small situations that reveal character, patience, and emotional strength. The twins encountered these moments daily, from negotiating responsibilities around the house to making independent decisions about their studies and personal projects. Each situation, while minor on the surface, became a lesson in discernment, integrity, and self-confidence. Linda remained present, yet her presence was different now. Gone were the days of subtle manipulation and quiet intimidation. Her words were careful, her actions measured, as if she were testing the boundaries without expecting them to be pliable. It was a clear sign that she recognized her influence had diminished. The emotional barrier we had built, through unity, consistency, and calm authority, remained unshaken. One afternoon, as we were organizing Dad's remaining letters and documents, Emma paused and looked at me. "Mark, sometimes I still feel the weight of everything that happened. The fear, the uncertainty. It's like a shadow that follows us." I nodded, understanding completely. "Yes, those experiences leave marks. But shadows don't define us. They remind us of how far we've come. They teach resilience, courage, and wisdom. That weight you feel now is proof of your growth, not limitation." Jacob, flipping through old photographs, added thoughtfully, "I think that's why we're stronger now. We faced fear and uncertainty and learned how to respond with clarity and honesty. That's the gift Dad left us. Not just protection, but the ability to navigate life with courage." "Yes," I said softly, "and that's why we can face each moment calmly. We have the tools, the guidance, and the unity to handle anything life throws at us." As the weeks progressed, subtle challenges continued to arise. Minor disagreements, misplaced items, and unexpected requests from Linda became exercises in patience, decision-making, and emotional resilience. Each time, the twins responded with thoughtfulness, demonstrating how far they had grown. They no longer reacted impulsively or with fear. Instead, they approached situations with clarity, weighing consequences and acting with integrity. One evening, after a long day of reflection and organization, Emma spoke quietly. "I think the hardest lesson wasn't about handling her or following Dad's legal instructions. It was learning to trust ourselves, to know we could face anything with calm and honesty." Jacob nodded. "Exactly. Now, even when things feel uncertain or uncomfortable, we can respond with clarity. We act thoughtfully, without panic or anger. We respond with courage and unity." I felt a surge of pride. That's the essence of your father's guidance. Life will always present challenges, people will test your boundaries, and unexpected situations will arise. But if you remain true to yourselves, act with integrity, and stay united, you will navigate every obstacle successfully. The twins continued to grow in confidence with each passing week. They learned to make independent decisions, anticipate complications, and communicate openly. Their growth was evident not only in their actions, but in the way they carried themselves, with calm assurance, thoughtful reflection, and quiet determination. Linda, increasingly aware of her diminishing influence, became quieter and more reflective. She no longer attempted manipulation, instead observing with polite neutrality. Her behavior became a reminder of the power of consistency, unity, and emotional strength. True power, we had learned, was not intimidation, but integrity, patience, and resilience. One late afternoon, as the sunlight spilled across the living room, Emma turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Mark, I feel like we've truly learned how to live. Not just survive, but approach life with clarity, courage, and honesty. That's a gift beyond anything else," Jacob added softly. "And it's a gift we'll carry with us forever. Not just for now, but for every challenge that comes next." "Yes," I said, my voice calm but filled with emotion. "Your father's legacy isn't just the inheritance or the documents. It's the wisdom, guidance, and strength he instilled in you. That's what will guide your choices, your actions, and your life." By the time autumn was in full bloom, the household had reached a point of stability and maturity. The twins were no longer children navigating fear and uncertainty. They were young adults, ready to face life with courage, discernment, and emotional resilience. Linda's presence, while still part of the household, no longer carried the power to disrupt or intimidate. That evening, as the sun set and shadows lengthened, I reflected on the journey we had taken. From fear and manipulation to confidence, clarity, and unity, the twins had grown in ways that exceeded my expectations. Dad's foresight, our guidance, and their resilience had created an unbreakable foundation. I whispered quietly, almost to myself, "We are ready. We are strong. We are united. And no challenge, manipulation, or uncertainty can shake the lessons, courage, and love that bind us together." In that quiet moment, I realized that the true inheritance was not documents, legal safeguards, or material wealth. The real inheritance was the emotional resilience, wisdom, and unity of our family. The lessons that would carry us through life long after any challenge had passed. As I watched Emma and Jacob, calm, confident, and capable, I knew we had fulfilled Dad's greatest wish. Not just to protect the twins, but to prepare them for life in a way no one could ever take away. Winter was approaching, and with it came a quiet introspection that seemed to settle over the house. The trees had lost their leaves, and the soft gray light of early evenings reminded me of how much time had passed since the first months of uncertainty and fear. Yet, there was a difference now. The atmosphere was calm, filled with purpose and a quiet confidence. The twins had grown into capable young adults, no longer defined by fear, but by resilience, clarity, and unity. Even with the peace we had established, life's subtle challenges persisted. Linda, ever present though subdued, occasionally introduced unexpected questions or requests. While harmless on the surface, they served as gentle reminders that vigilance and thoughtful response were necessary. The lessons the twins had learned were put into practice daily. Patience, discernment, and integrity guided their actions and decisions. One evening, as I sat with Emma and Jacob in the living room, I reflected on how far they had come. "You know," I said softly, "life has a way of testing us, even after we've faced its biggest challenges. It's in those small, unexpected moments that true growth shows itself." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "I understand. Sometimes, the test isn't about danger or fear. It's about patience, clarity, and knowing how to respond without losing ourselves." Jacob added, "And that's what makes us stronger. Every challenge we meet calmly, every choice we make with integrity, strengthens us in ways nothing else can." I felt a deep sense of pride. "Exactly. Your father prepared you for life, not just to protect you from harm, but to equip you to handle everything with courage and clarity. That's the real legacy." In the following days, the twins encountered minor but meaningful challenges. Household decisions, school projects, and unexpected social situations provided opportunities to practice the lessons they had learned. Each decision was met with thoughtful deliberation, calm judgment, and unity. It was a remarkable transformation from the anxious, cautious children they had once been. Linda, increasingly aware of her lack of influence, observed quietly, speaking only when necessary and without attempt at manipulation. Her presence was no longer disruptive. It was neutral, almost reflective. The household's balance had shifted entirely. The twins' unity, combined with the consistent guidance and emotional groundwork left by their father, had created an unbreakable foundation. One afternoon, Emma turned to me with a reflective expression. "Mark, I think the most valuable lesson we've learned isn't about fear or rules. It's about trust, trusting ourselves, trusting each other, and trusting that we can handle anything life presents." Jacob nodded quietly. "It's about integrity, too. Not just following rules, but understanding right from wrong and making choices that reflect that understanding." "Yes," I said softly, "and that's why you can face life with confidence. Your father's guidance, the unity we've built, and your own strength will always carry you through. Those are lessons no one can take away." Over the weeks, we continued to navigate daily life with calm attention. The twins took on responsibilities independently, demonstrating maturity and foresight in ways that once seemed unimaginable. They consulted each other, weighed consequences, and acted with integrity. These small successes reinforced their confidence, teaching them that they could meet life's challenges without fear or doubt. One evening, as we sat together reflecting on the day, Emma shared a thought that had clearly been on her mind. "I used to think strength was about proving ourselves, standing up to others, or defending what's ours. But now I see it's something much deeper. Strength is about calm, integrity, unity, and courage. It's about trusting yourself and the people who matter most." Jacob smiled. "And that's a lesson we'll carry forever. Not just for now, but for everything that comes next." I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Exactly. That's the essence of your father's legacy. The inheritance, the letters, and the guidance weren't just about protection. They were about teaching you how to live, how to face life's challenges, and how to stay true to yourselves. As Part 9 continues, subtle new challenges and reflective moments will arise, testing patience, judgment, and unity. These situations will serve to strengthen the twins' growth and reinforce the lessons their father had instilled, preparing them for the final chapters of this journey. The weeks that followed were marked by quiet reflection and measured action. Life, even when peaceful, presents small tests, moments that reveal character, patience, and resilience. The twins faced these daily, negotiating responsibilities around the house, making independent choices about their studies, and managing personal projects. Each scenario, though minor on the surface, became a lesson in discernment, integrity, and confidence. Linda remained present, though her presence had changed. Gone were the days of subtle intimidation and manipulation. Her words were careful, her actions deliberate, as if testing boundaries without expecting them to yield. It was a clear sign she recognized her diminished influence. The foundation we had built through unity, consistency, and calm authority remained unshaken. One afternoon, as we sorted Dad's remaining letters and documents, Emma paused and spoke softly. "Mark, sometimes I feel the shadow of the past, the fear, the uncertainty. It lingers even now." I nodded, understanding fully. "Yes, shadows are natural after challenges, but they don't define you. They are reminders of growth and resilience. That weight is proof of strength, not weakness." Jacob, examining an old photograph, added thoughtfully, "I think that's why we're stronger. We've faced fear and uncertainty and learned to respond with calm and integrity. Dad left us more than protection. He left us the ability to navigate life itself." "Yes," I said softly, "and that's why you can meet each moment with confidence. You have guidance, wisdom, and the unity to handle anything." As the days passed, subtle challenges continued, minor disagreements, misplaced items, or unexpected requests from Linda. Each situation became an exercise in patience, decision-making, and emotional resilience. The twins responded with calm, thoughtful deliberation, showing remarkable growth. They no longer reacted impulsively or out of fear. Instead, they approached every scenario with clarity and integrity. One evening, after a long day of reflection and organization, Emma spoke quietly. "I think the hardest lesson wasn't about handling her or following Dad's instructions. It was learning to trust ourselves, to know we can handle anything with honesty and calm." Jacob nodded. "Exactly. Now, even when life feels uncertain, We act thoughtfully. We don't panic. We respond with courage and unity. I felt pride swell in my chest. That's the essence of your father's guidance. Life will always present challenges. People will test your boundaries, and unexpected events will arise. But if you remain true to yourselves, act with integrity, and stay united, you can navigate anything successfully. The twins' growth was evident in every small choice and action. They learned to make independent decisions, anticipate consequences, and communicate openly with one another and with me. Their maturity was not just in their actions, but in their demeanor, calm, confident, and thoughtful. Linda, increasingly aware of her diminished influence, became quiet and reflective. She no longer attempted manipulation, instead observing politely. Her presence became a reminder of the power of consistency, unity, and emotional strength. True power, we had learned, is not intimidation but integrity, patience, and resilience. One late afternoon, as the sunlight filtered through the living room windows, Emma spoke softly, her eyes reflective. "Mark, I think we've truly learned how to live. Not just survive, but approach life with clarity, courage, and honesty. That's a gift beyond words," Jacob added. "And it's a gift we'll carry forever. Not just for now, but for every challenge ahead." "Yes," I said, my voice calm but full of emotion. "Your father's legacy isn't just the inheritance or documents. It's the wisdom, guidance, and strength he instilled in you that will guide every choice, every action, every part of your life." By the time winter settled fully, the household had reached a point of balance and maturity. The twins were no longer children navigating fear. They were young adults, ready to face life with courage, discernment, and emotional resilience. Linda's presence, while still part of daily life, no longer had the power to disrupt or intimidate. That evening, as the sun set and shadows stretched across the floor, I reflected on our journey. From fear and manipulation to confidence, clarity, and unity, the twins had grown in ways beyond what I could have imagined. Dad's foresight, our guidance, and their resilience had created an unshakable foundation. I whispered quietly, almost to myself, "We are ready. We are strong. We are united. No challenge, manipulation, or uncertainty can shake the lessons, courage, and love that bind us together." In that quiet moment, I understood that the true inheritance was never just legal documents or material wealth. The real inheritance was emotional resilience, wisdom, and unity, the lessons that would carry us through life long after any challenge passed. Watching Emma and Jacob, calm, confident, and capable, I knew we had fulfilled Dad's greatest wish, not just to protect the twins, but to prepare them for life in a way that no one could ever take away. Winter had settled fully over the town, and with it came a quiet stillness that blanketed the house. The garden was bare, the sky often gray, but inside, there was warmth, light, and a sense of calm that had been hard-won over the months. The twins moved through the home with purpose, carrying the lessons of their father in every choice they made. Emma's thoughtful leadership and Jacob's quiet confidence had become the rhythm of the household. The fear and uncertainty that once lingered in every corner had been replaced by resilience, clarity, and unity. Even in this calm, life still offered subtle challenges, tests of patience, judgment, and emotional maturity. Linda, though subdued, remained part of the household. Her words were measured, her actions deliberate, and her attempts at influence had all but vanished. The twins handled her presence with ease, responding thoughtfully, calmly, and without tension. It was a testament to their growth and the foundation of strength Dad had left behind. One evening, as the three of us sat by the fireplace, I reflected on everything we had endured. "You know," I said softly, "life has a way of testing us, even when it seems calm. Sometimes it's in small, quiet moments that true character is revealed." Emma looked thoughtful. "I understand. The test isn't always big or obvious. It's patience, clarity, knowing how to respond without fear, and trusting ourselves and each other," Jacob added. "And that's what makes us strong. Every time we meet life calmly, every choice made with honesty and care strengthens us in ways nothing else can." I felt a surge of pride. "Exactly. Your father prepared you not just for protection, but for life. He taught you courage, clarity, and unity. Those are the tools that will carry you through every challenge. In the following days, subtle situations continued to appear. Misplaced documents, unexpected requests, or minor disagreements provided opportunities for practice. The twins approached each one with calm deliberation, weighing consequences and responding with integrity. Each success reinforced their confidence and reminded them that they could handle life's unpredictability without fear. Linda, increasingly aware of her diminishing influence, spoke rarely and only when necessary. Her presence had shifted from a source of tension to a neutral observer. It was a reminder of how far we had come. The household was no longer ruled by fear or uncertainty, but by the calm, confident unity of the family. One afternoon, Emma spoke softly, as though sharing a realization with herself. "Mark, I think the most important thing we've learned isn't about rules or protection. It's about trusting ourselves, knowing we can handle anything, and understanding what really matters." Jacob nodded in agreement. "And it's about integrity, not just following rules, but making choices that reflect who we are and what we believe is right." "Yes," I said gently, "and that's why you can face life with confidence. Your father's guidance, our unity, and your own strength will always carry you forward. Those are lessons no one can ever take away." As the days turned into weeks, the twins' growth became more evident. They took on responsibilities independently, collaborated effectively, and approached challenges with calm reasoning. Their maturity was reflected not only in their actions but in their demeanor, a quiet confidence, a sense of purpose, and an understanding of life's deeper lessons. One evening, as the sun cast long shadows across the living room, Emma shared a thought that seemed to capture everything we had experienced. "I used to think strength was about proving ourselves, standing up to others, or defending what's ours. Now I see it's deeper than that. Strength is calm, integrity, unity, and courage. It's trusting yourself and the people who matter most." Jacob smiled. "And it's a lesson we'll carry forever. Not just for now, but for everything that comes next." I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. "Exactly. That's the essence of your father's legacy. The inheritance, the letters, and his guidance weren't just for protection. They were for teaching you how to live, how to face challenges, and how to stay true to yourselves." As part 10 continues, the story will move toward reflection, closure, and the ultimate life lesson, the culmination of all the trials, growth, and quiet victories the family has experienced.